Good evening. Welcome to Back to School Night, or if you're watching this and it's not Back to School Night, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Valerie Egger, and I teach Intro to Journalism, AP Literature, Creative Writing, and Public Speaking, which are semester courses, as well as newspaper. The slides in this presentation apply to all of my classes, but if you wait until the end of the presentation, I'll show you where to go in each Schoology class to find some more specific information about each class. I recorded videos at the beginning of the year specific to each course with things like how to turn in work and what the course is about, a little bit more content-based. So a little bit about me in general. This is my 16th year teaching. Most of those years have been at LCHS. Mostly I teach AP Literature, Journalism, which is Intro to Journalism. I sponsor the newspaper as well as the literary magazine. If your son or daughter, even if they're not in creative writing, likes to write short stories, poetry, creative nonfiction, if they're an artist, photography, or any kind of artwork, please have them contact me and find out how they can get their work in the literary magazine. It's really cool to see your work in print. And even this year, if we don't get to print it physically, we'll definitely have it up in PDF form. In addition to teaching, I'm an author. I write chapter books for younger readers. I write young adult books. I do editing, and I also have two corgis, Leia and Yoda. And 2020, despite all of its challenges, it's been a fantastic year for photography. I love photography, and that's why I love to teach. One of the reasons I love to teach Intro to Journalism and newspaper. It all started in 2020 with Comet Neowise. There's Comet they discovered fairly recently was going to be visible. So you can see it in this picture just under the Big Dipper. Not the best shot, but it got me introduced to night photography, which is something I hadn't really done before. So after getting some okay pictures of the comet, I decided to research what would make even better photography. And I'm glad I did because it really helped my photography skills and helps what I can teach my students. I learned how to photograph the Milky Way, which apparently is right above my house if I can get the neighbors to turn off their porch lights. And the most recent shot I got was right across the street from me. I kind of live in the middle of nowhere in Western Loudon. This really cool shot of the Milky Way, one of the arms of the galaxy, behind some trees, which is really cool. So I like to share that passion that I have with photography with my students in journalism. And I love to share my passion for writing and editing with my students in AP Literature. So teaching to me is a really cool job because I can share everything I'm passionate about with students. Distance learning this year, obviously the classroom looks a little bit different because we're sitting in front of screens, but the principles of good teaching are the same. We'll start with some kind of warm-up, and depending on what class it is, it could be a video that we watch, a discussion, something that we type in the chat to share, could be sharing an example of something. Then we'll move on to a larger activity. It could be a lecture, depending what's needed. It could be a class discussion, a student-led workshop, or student presentations of slides they've been working on. It could be students working on a graphic organizer that will help them for a long-term project. And then we'll wrap up with either an exit ticket or an assignment. And this is something I'll give them at the end of class, and it's something they can work on during Learning Lab or outside of school. It could be write a paragraph, kind of summarizing or synthesizing what we've been talking about. It could be to work on a long-term assignment, like write interview questions or read a short story or a novel for AP Literature. It could be applying something that we've done. It could be answering questions, or it could be posting to a discussion forum. I love to use discussion forums in all of my class because it allows us to have a discussion asynchronously. So we don't all have to be in the same place at the same time. We can post our response and then others can come and post as well. The platforms that I use in my classes, I keep fairly simple. Everything really starts with Schoology, and everything is posted in Schoology under a folder that's labeled with the current week's dates. So for example, September 22nd to 23rd, or September 29th through 30th. If students click on that folder, all the work that we do that week will be in there, including assignments, PowerPoint or Google Slides, work that they need to do like graphic organizers. It'll all be in that folder so that if they miss class or are trying to remember what we did in class that day, they'll find an easy place to look for that. So it all starts with Schoology. Within Schoology, there are links to external things like YouTube videos. Turnitin.com, they have moved into Schoology, so students never have to actually leave Schoology to turn in assignments that way. We'll be using lots of Google Docs and Google Slides. Students should rely on Gmail for sure. And then AP Classroom at apcentral.collegeboard.org. Students should have already in AP Literature registered for my classroom in there. The College Board has made these awesome videos and they started doing this last spring when everything closed down. And they're usually about 6 minutes, and it's a powerful 6 minutes. So I encourage students to watch these videos. Some of them will watch in class, and some of them will watch outside of class. If they're optional or supplemental, I still really encourage students to read those. For journalism, we'll use a news source called Newsella. And again, the links will be in Schoology. We'll sometimes also use outside news sources. What I like about Newsella is that it does allow students to change the reading level of a piece. So if they're learning how to, if they're English language learners, or if they're just trying to learn how to analyze news, they can modify the reading level as they need. Extra support. So every class is followed by 20 minutes or so of Learning Lab. So students are allowed to remain in our Google Meet after class to ask questions. They can get additional support. As needed, I will use Learning Lab for that purpose. If we're doing an essay, we might do peer editing. In newspaper, we've been making frequent use of Learning Lab just to have students meet in breakout rooms to talk about articles that are of similar topics and share resources and things like that. So definitely Learning Lab. If students decide to log off during Learning Lab, that's totally fine. But if they have questions or need help, they should be using that time to get the additional help. Students can also contact me. Mondays I'm available. I always have my email open. I respond fairly quickly on Mondays, unless I'm doing something like making a video and not checking my email, but I'll respond within an hour usually on Mondays and often within a few minutes. I have dedicated office hours from 11 to 12 on Mondays. Students need to email me ahead of time for a join code, but they can also email me at other times outside of that window, and if they need to meet, I'll just tell them how to do that. A lot of parents ask how they can support their students. Communication is the biggest thing. It's so much easier in the classroom to kind of look around and gauge responses. If students have their cameras off, I can't always tell by facial expressions whether they're understanding things or not. I try to use the online tools like text, the chat function where they can just type a short text in there and respond to something. And then I do a lot of exit tickets where I can assess whether they're understanding the material. But communication is the number one thing. So please encourage your students to communicate with me. And if you have questions, please email me for support. There's no such thing as a bad email. Just send an email. If it was a question that is simple to answer, I'll answer it. If it's something that needs more attention, we'll certainly talk about it in class, because if you have that question, probably others do as well. If your students in AP Literature, please push them to watch those videos, because honestly, the videos that we assign in AP Classroom, those are going to kick their writing up to the next level, for sure. And to find out more about specific content in each course, please go to the Schoology course, and then there's a folder on that main page called Course Information and Resources. And then there's a purple folder called About the Course Videos. And I've made one video for each course that's kind of a basic introduction to what the course is about. And then there are some additional videos in there, such as the turning working late policy or an extension policy and things like that. If I can be of any assistance, please reach out. I'm only an email away. Thank you for coming to Back to School Night. I hope you found this informative, and I will see you on the screen and possibly in person later this year.